Michael Klepacz from Natural Materials Unlimited. Welcome to the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. How are you doing?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Yeah.
It's good to hear.
Yeah. I'm excited that it's March. I don't know
Oh,
when
me too.
I don't know when this episode will air, but for those listening at home, it's March 4th. I first thought it was Star Wars Day, but that's May 4th, right?
May 4th. Yeah.
But March 4th needs something. So I decided today when I was waking my kids up that today's the day to get things done. March
You
4th
can,
and get things done.
we were thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Michael, hello, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good because on March 4th in Poland right now, the terminal leaf buds are swelling, which means we're going to have leaves soon.
All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So, where in Poland are you? Actually, why don't you give us just a general introduction to yourself?
General introduction. I'm a 38-year-old entrepreneur, father, and husband from Ohio, living in Warsaw, Poland. I started a company called Natural Materials Unlimited we started laying the groundwork in 2013, but it officially started in 2015. Um, I started it while I was doing my bachelor's here. I went to a bachelor's in management school, I guess a business management school for my bachelor's and my master's. And that's the rest is history. Just working.
So, you're living in Warsaw, you're from Ohio,
Mm.
Natural Materials Unlimited. I'm guessing you make materials out of natural things, and there's no
We make
limit to
we
what you
make
do.
stuff.
You make stuff.
We make stuff out of natural things. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. What stuff do you make, and what are the natural things that you use?
The stuff that we make varies very broadly. Lately, we attempt to supply jobs to the local economy as best as possible under our own roof, but sometimes it doesn't make sense, you know. So we started with actually the first project that we actually did and got paid for was this stuff called hemp wick, which is a
Hemp.
waxed yarn that people use instead of a lighter. After that, it was guitar straps and then pet accessories. That slowly turned into people belts and knitted hats and scarves, and then reselling, clothing and things like that, or fabric like from Envirotextile with Summer and Barb and things like that, kind of whatever we would sort of get our hands on. And so companies just kind of approach us with crazy ideas like a yoga mat that looks like a joint when you roll it up, and we make it.
All right.
Or we find people who can.
Right. Um, so how big is the business now? How many do you have employees now?
Around COVID time, we had 50, and we're up to 25 right now or
Okay.
so.
You're sort
Yeah.
of rebuilding.
Yeah, it's a rebuilding phase for sure.
Okay. And how is, like starting a business, running a business in Poland, how does that compare to what you might imagine it's like in the US?
I'm absolutely going to shit on Poland right now, and I said I wasn't going to curse, but here we go. It is incredibly easy to do business in America. It's one of the things that make America so amazing. You know what I mean? And it's one of the things I warned the Europeans about here.
All of
Like it's
them?
2012, 2015, 2016. I'm like, you guys better get it together, because when America legalizes hemp, all of you are effed.
And in your experience, is that what's happening now, or is
Yes
that
and
a
no.
okay?
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, I'm over here like waving the American flag, cheering it on. You know what I mean? There's some things that I would do different. But that's just because I'm, you know, and to back up to your original question, the materials that we use are bast fiber stuff: linen, hemp, canaf, jute, whatever, the occasional recycled cotton. But so like I consider myself these days more of a sustainability entrepreneur,
Mhm.
but like hemp is a major focus of mine because it's just so sustainable. And so my thing is, And like the difference between me and your most recent interviewee, Maciej Kowalski, like if
Who I
our Venn
spoke to this
diagram,
morning.
there's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, it's
You
it's
know,
Poland Day here on the podcast. That's
it's
right.
Poland Day on the podcast. So there's definitely a lot of overlap between us, but
Mhm.
he, like many Americans, I mean, he's not American, but also like Americans, they're all about the short fiber right now. Whereas I'm one of the only people just beating the war drum for real long fibers, like truly long traditional fibers.
Okay. Yeah, we did have a long conversation about short fibers just today. So that's interesting. Tell me why it's long fibers for you.
It's long fibers for me because I think that like in a certain way that in its own way, long fibers can kind of save the world.
All
I
right. Well,
think.
that's a huge statement.
Yeah.
Let's tell me what you
Yeah.
mean, Mike.
Well, if you're just growing for short fiber, then short fiber is all you're going to get, right? You're going to get the herd, you're going to get the short fiber. It's going to be great. But if you're also growing for the long fiber, you still get all of those constituents and long fiber. And one of the most interesting things that no one talks about, I mean, some of us kind of in the textile world talk about it, is, a, a few years back, China started chemically decorticating, right? So they're getting green fiber now, not this, and I'm using finger quotes, yellow fiber, which is the traditional long fiber. And so the Chinese now are buying up in droves as much as they can all the European long fiber and processing it there because it's dying in China and it's still alive here. And so, like, the demand for long fiber in Europe has never been bigger,
Wow.
and the supply has never been more unstable.
So let me ask a couple questions there. So first, what are the benefits of the long fiber? And like in order to get the long fiber, do you need different varieties or is it a processing question?
Both, I would say. Both. I mean, there are, I would say, I'm not, oh, first of all, I'm not a farmer. You know, I have never sown a hectare of hemp myself. So much as I would love to, I'm legally not allowed in Poland. You
Oh,
know,
okay.
I don't speak the language and I don't have the certificate. I'm not allowed.
Fair enough.
Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, yeah. Well, it's like unfortunate and weird, and one of the things I'll shit on Poland about, but
But you're not bitter. There's no resentment here.
there's certainly zero resentment. Zero resentment. But I'm definitely not resentful about a bunch of things. But I am super happy for there's opportunities here for sure. Even if I don't have the farmer certificate, whatever, right? You can work with farmers, but either way. So like I think in order, and Mache can talk volumes about this more than me. Um, the varieties and the soil type, the amount of natural rain that you're getting, and like basically the amount of kilograms of seed per hectare will yield you long fiber. One of the interesting issues that we have now though is that, so flax, right? Let's talk about bast fibers in general. Flax, though it's indeterminate, theoretically it will continue to grow to infinite height if it could, but it can't because it's a growing season.
Right.
It generally always grows to a very uniformed height. And in France, Belgium, Poland, etc., all of the processing equipment that harvests the flax is built precisely for that height. The
Okay.
scutching equipment, the decortication, all of it is for flax. Now, it can be used for hemp, which just beats the hell out of the equipment because hemp's slightly stronger.
Mhm.
And you end up having to cut, like, because you can have 20 foot tall hemp,
Sure.
but there's no equipment that can break
Process
a
that at
20
all.
foot
Yeah.
stalk in half, let alone harvest it and bale it, and then have multi-feet long strands along the scutching machine as you're beating out the herd. And so there's this technology gap, right? Because flax, the French are having like 20% less yield now because of quote unquote climate change, there's just not enough rains, right? So like flax is very weather determinant in how good the yields are. Well, hemp is more drought tolerant, but then there's this technology gap still between what's good for harvesting and processing flax versus what's good for truly harvesting and processing long fibers. So
Hmm. Okay. Um, so what are the benefits then, in your opinion, of keeping the long fibers?
the strength, right? So for example, like all of those just amazing yarns that you can use for knitting or for making good fabrics for like the highest quality textiles can be made from the long fibers. You know what I mean? I'm a treasure trove of stupid facts, but like most of the canvas coming from the word cannabis, as most of us know, most of the canvases around the Netherlands in like the 17th, 18th century were not linen. They
Right.
were hemp.
Yeah.
There was a really interesting paper that somebody made in the 80s where they went through the Louvre or Louvre, whatever you call it, in
Louvre.
France,
Yeah.
and they tested the canvases to see what they were, and most of them were hemp.
I remember hearing a story about, maybe it was like the Renaissance, the painters were getting a hold of these old sails and they were making the canvases out of the hemp sails. So maybe there's a like a nautical connection there.
There could be, right, because the from what I understand, cotton, which wasn't readily available at the time because the cotton gin hadn't been invented yet. Either way, it doesn't hold up to salt water very well, and
Yeah.
that's why linen and hemp sails were the standard.
Right. Right.
Same for
Um,
the ropes.
Mache was telling me this morning about, they're converting the hemp to short fibers, so it sort of plays well with cotton, the cottonization
Mm-hmm.
process.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But what you're saying is you don't do the cottonization. You're just gonna make yarn from the long fibers without blending it with things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I understand, why people are doing it. Cotton's cheap, you know. But I'm on the sustainability side. Cotton's also unsustainable,
Mhm.
you know, for the most part. And I've yet to really feel a blend that I loved.
Mm.
Like I've never felt uh sorry for the image, but it's like I've never felt cotton hemp blend that I just wanted to lay naked on. Like I don't want to have hemp cotton sheets. I wouldn't be able to sleep.
Hmm.
At least
Sure.
not from what I've touched so far. But I've touched long fiber sheets that are amazing
Hmm.
and that feel better the older they are.
So you're kind of like a long fiber evangelist. Like you want more
Yeah.
people to consider the long fibers because it looks like everyone's going short fibers. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But the flax industry needs the long fibers. Otherwise, those flax farmers who are trying to convert to hemp are just, it's going to be a lost art.
Right. Hmm.
So for me, it's all about the sustainable cellulose,
Right.
you know.
There's a movement here in Pennsylvania to bring flax back to the fields of Pennsylvania. It's the
Cool.
Pennsylvania Flax Project.
That's
Um,
awesome.
yeah. All right. So you're in Poland. You grew up in the U.S. You have a business, Natural Materials Unlimited, and you've been doing this for what, like 10 years? You said this started business in 2014 or so.
Yeah, I've been in sustainability in some form or other since 2009.
Okay.
Um, but but I was really on like the regenerative agriculture, permaculture boat
Hmm.
at the time, aquaponics, all those kinds of things.
Sure.
Trying to figure out how technology can properly save humanity in our food. I was renting a farm at the time. This was, 2013, 2014. I was renting a farm here. Um, so even though like I wasn't legally at the time able to be a farmer, you can kind of rent farmers,
Hmm.
to like
Okay.
do farm things for you. But also at the time, I had huge dreams of being completely fluent in Polish and doing the certificate and all that other stuff. But yeah, I wanted to have my own permaculture farm slash homestead. But in order to fund it better, I was like, I have some empty buildings here. I'm going to start a little business, and
Okay.
the profits can help fund this endeavor. But the land ended up being kind of sucked up by the local city, the local town.
Hmm.
Um, I don't remember the word for that.
Municipality?
Yeah, no, when the municipality like takes over the land adjacent to it,
Oh, right.
kind of like an eminent
Eminent
domain sort of
domain.
thing.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it was.
Right. So you just forget English words sometimes because you've lived over there so long and
Yeah,
you don't use those words. It's like a muscle. You
yeah,
gotta use it or you lose it.
yeah. I didn't. I thought I was like, there's no way I could ever forget certain words and phrases and things, you know. But it's like,
Yeah. I turned 50 a couple of years ago, and you'll be amazed what stuff you'll forget, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, for sure.
Yeah. Like why did I walk into the room? I'm not sure. Let's walk back into the other room and see if that triggers something. Anyway, in Poland, is there like a lot of regenerative agriculture? Is that a concept that people are working towards?
Um, no, not really. Well, an interesting factoid is the Rudolf Steiner Institute or something was in present day Poland, which
Hmm.
was like Prussia or whatever at the time.
Right, that's the founder of the
Um,
Waldorf schools here in America, based on the
and
teachings
like
of Rudolf Steiner.
biodynamic
Yep,
agriculture as
biodynamic
well.
agriculture. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's present day Poland, which is pretty neat.
Huh.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of like agritourism and stuff like that, but it's just, Poland is very, when I came to Poland, I was like, I completely understand why my people stopped in Ohio. Like Poland and Pennsylvania and Ohio, there's a lot of visual overlap.
Okay.
The same species, more or less, I mean, oak, maples,
Right.
pine, etc., squirrels, rabbits, hogs, deer. Um, they got some serious deer here, but they also have cute little baby ones.
Oh yeah. Little baby
Yeah,
deer.
they have red stag, which looks like a cow and a like a white-tailed deer and like a elk had a baby.
Whoa.
It's like a red stag. It's like a red stag,
Hmm.
and then you have roe deer, which is like a little goat deer.
Okay.
So
Goat deer. Yeah.
it's the only way to
All right. So
describe
there's
it.
a lot of like geographic similarities between where you are and
Absolutely,
where you're from. Okay.
yeah.
From your perspective there as an expat American living in Poland, you've been watching from afar as the US hemp industry, sort of came into being. I know there's people been working, trying to bring hemp, back for years, generations now. But 2018 legalized as a commodity crop. What are your thoughts from there? Like, I don't know, what should we be apart from the long fibers and the short fibers, what should we be thinking about that we're not?
No, in both, I can't speak on other European countries, but in Poland and the US, at least so far as I understand about the US, hot cropping is terrible phenomenon in both places. The police and
THC
the
level
politicians just
spiking?
don't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even so in the 1930s, there was a battle of wits between the French and the Polish for flax and hemp. And the French figured out how they were the first to feminize industrial hemp, right? Because you don't want a bunch of males clogging up your combines. You know what I mean? Like you just want feminized seed. And so they figured it out. And then the Polish Hemp Institute was started in the 1930s. And then they figured out, the hybrid to feminize the seeds and so on and so forth. And it's just kind of been going on from there. But even with the best feminized seeds that come from the Polish government itself, they'll still test hot given certain conditions.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So far as I understand, ditchweed from Kentucky that's been abandoned and just regrowing itself for the last 80 years or whatever tests at about 5%.
I hear there's
So what?
yeah, exactly.
You
If you're
know, like,
Yeah, why does the
cool.
THC content matter if you're going to make it into a shirt, right? Or yeah, there's Yep.
with my no, well, see now you're gonna put me in a rant. I hope
Uh-oh.
rants go well on your show.
Let's find
Um,
out.
I have to every once in a while, some dumbass, ignorant government will send me a paper that I have to like put my name down and promise that the fibers that make my products are free of THC. And it's like, do none of you know anything about biology whatsoever in any shape, way, or form? You know what I mean? And it's like it was the same, rewind to 2009 when I'm really getting into sustainability and I'm looking at the cannabis laws and the everyone being scared about cannabis and it's like if the DEA knew anything about cannabis, they wouldn't be spraying pesticides or setting fields on fire. They'd just be dropping industrial hemp amongst people's cannabis grows. You know what I mean? And just no one wants seedy, crappy weed. You know what I mean? They want that sense high THC weed. But the moment it gets pollinated, it stops or drastically reduces the production of THC.
Right.
So why not fight biological things with biological things? That's why American weed growers don't want industrial hemp. At least that's the drama I hear from over here, that there's a big anti-industrial hemp movement from the medicinal cannabis people because they don't want cross pollination.
Yeah, there's some of that. There's a lot of strange sort of dynamics between the various sectors of the overall cannabis industry. And it's like,
Yeah,
why can't we all get along? Come on,
because
people.
of pollen.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy. But yeah, it's like it all comes back to like the reefer madness, the fear of THC, and
Mhm.
yeah, it's like over here they're trying to pass some legislation that would sort of exempt industrial hemp, sort of create a sub definition of industrial hemp,
Mhm.
based on, for fiber and for grain. And
Yeah.
yeah, the politicians, policymakers, like, well, no, people are going to grow weed in that. I'm like, no, they're not. They're not going to do
No, you
that.
can't
There's so
because
many
the weed's gonna
opportunities.
die because the hemp's too tall.
So it's great, but that's the whole, like, that's the education thing that
Yeah.
we're sort of up against. So
Yeah.
yeah, I hear stories from, people who are actively lobbying, the government to change policy, and they tell stories sort of off the record, like, wow, you would be blown away by how ignorant the politicians are of this. They're like, oh no, we did hemp already. What's the problem? Why do we need to make any changes?
Mm-hmm.
And but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is sort of the growing pains of an industry. And from
Absolutely.
my point of view, it's just fascinating to watch it, right? Because I have literally no skin in the game. I'm just an observer from the sidelines, watching
Yeah.
an industry put itself together, and it's fascinating. Like, I think this is, or hemp is one of the most exciting stories in agriculture. It's a slow story, but it's
Right.
exciting for the environmental things, because we have to move from the extractive model to the regenerative model. We don't have a lot of time, and
Yeah.
agriculture has to be part of the solution. Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
such a simple and elegant solution, and
Right.
I think people are overthinking it, right? They're like, oh
Right.
no, we need great big machines to pull the carbon from the atmosphere. I'm like, well, we have something that's
Mm-hmm.
going to work. So I don't know. We just have
Mm-hmm.
to scale it and move
Yeah.
into a new paradigm. Like, I think there's a lot of minds, hearts and minds we need to change.
We're on the same page, you and I. But it's the same. It's the same thing here in Poland, right? Like, so for example, this is a funny thing. So the World War II generation, right? The World War II generation here, if you mention cannabis, they will think of a traditional Polish soup because of a soup made from the seeds. They will also think of like burlap sacks and other hempy things,
Yeah.
but there will be zero negative connotation. Zero. You know,
Hmm.
in fact, there's this book. What was his name? Jack Hare. Jack Hare.
Hmm.
Jack Hare did the Emperor Wears No
Emperor wears
Clothes.
no
Was
clothes.
that him?
Yep. Hmm.
Yeah. So in that book, he wrote something like in the 1930s, the DEA or the precursor of the DEA knocked on some door of some farmer or something and was greeted with a shotgun or something. And it was some Polish immigrants who refused not to grow hemp because how else would they make their clothes? you
Right.
know? And like that's that World War II generation that
Yeah.
I'm talking about here. Whereas like their children, so like my father-in-law, like they just have the Reagan era
Sure.
drug,
Say
drug,
no to
drug, drug, drug,
drugs.
drug,
Yep.
drug.
Yep.
And then the children, so the grandchildren of the World War II generation, which is my generation,
Yeah.
is like, well, what do my parents think? You know? And so like when I moved to Poland in 2012, I think there was less than 3,000 acres of hemp being grown,
Mm.
even though there was like a full-on industrial hemp like institute who was failing the whole country by allowing it to get that low with their shitty policies. But
You
yeah.
you you should hope that like the Polish people don't listen to my show. I mean, I
No,
hope
no, no.
that they do, but I feel like
He
they might
might.
run you they might run you out of the country.
The guy who's the director over there now, it's completely changed, and I give him shit. We have a mutual respect for each other, you know. But if you're talking about 2012, 2015, the Institute of Natural and what is it in English? Natural, the Institute of Medicinal Plants and Natural Fibers, something like that.
Okay.
Like it was a completely different conversation before this guy took over.
Hmm.
The conversation at that institute at that time was, oh, we've seen the sustainability trend before. Don't bet your life on it. Hemp is just a fad. Don't worry. And like that's what they believed. And I was like, you guys are wrong. This is different. You
It's
know,
different this time.
sustainability is not going away. Wake up. You know?
Yeah, because like if sustainability doesn't work, then we don't sustain, right? And that has an implication that I don't really like the ring of.
Right. Same.
Yeah. Um, all right. I had a good question. I'll edit this part out. Maybe I won't. Maybe it'll just be, maybe this will be like I said, like a 3 hour episode with Mache in the beginning and then this conversation here. And maybe we're like
Right.
3 hours into it.
I blew your mind. I blew the question out of your mind with
Yeah.
my yelling at government officials.
I think yelling at government officials is something that everyone can relate to, no matter what country you're from, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, are you, what's your take on the farmer protests in Europe that are happening lately?
People tell me it's happening. I have no idea.
Fair enough. We'll scratch that question. How did you get into hemp in the first place? So you were in the Air Force. How do you go from
Yeah.
the Air Force to making natural fibers in Poland?
Um, you're aware of this thing called the GI Bill.
I've heard of it. I think my
Okay.
grandfather was on that.
Right. So it's a self-funded veteran program. The veterans, it's a giant pool of money that's been self-funded by the veterans since World War II. So I got out in 2007, and we were all told that the GI Bill was going to end and that they were going to create a new version, like a better, more modernized one, which is officially called the post 9/11 GI Bill now, but we still just call it the GI Bill, but it's different.
Okay.
Totally different, better benefits. So good of a difference in benefits that it behooved the person, myself at the time, to just take a vacation on life, you know, have a gap year or two to wait for the new version to come. And so during that 2 year period, I did a bunch of stuff and, you know, somehow fell in love with sustainability. The truth is one summer I was shaking mulberries out of a tree and thought, this is it. This is my new career. I want to be a farmer. Um, I don't care how geeky that sounds, but it's, if you think it's geeky, you've just never had a mulberry. Um, and but I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it in a different way. I wanted to take my techie, nerdy brain and get into greenhouse agriculture. Like I was basically looking at weed, going, if we can grow dank weed, why can't we grow dank tomatoes? You know what I mean? And why aren't dank tomatoes a human right? You know, and why are chemical based tomatoes cheaper than regular tomatoes? You know, like all these very basic
Sure. Fair
ignorant
questions.
questions I would ask my, you know, early 20s self. And so, that really got me down like the anti-GMO, anti-pesticide, herbicide rabbit hole. I ended up going to a local school that felt like it was funded by Monsanto, and I'm like, I quit. I'm not going to participate in this. I left. I wanted to go to uh, Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which had a apparently amazing organic program that I never ended up doing. I got bit by the entrepreneurship bug, did a little veteran program at UCLA. Well, at the same time, I was kind of trying to get into the medical cannabis industry. So between 2009 and falling down the eco sustainability rabbit hole, and
Mhm.
also really being into cannabis at the same time, tried doing the whole starting a dispensary thing in California, and um, in 2009 also with the sustainability thing is when I discovered this stuff called hemp wick.
Mm.
And I wanted my dad to use it. This is the longer story. But my dad was a stubborn old cigarette smoker, and he didn't want to use the wick to light. He didn't want to use a lighter to light the wick to light a cigarette. He just wanted to use the naphtha fueled Zippo and whatever. And so I ended up just going out to the garage and using the drill press to press out the shape of a Bic lighter, and I made like this little hemp wick dispenser for him, so it was just all in one thing. And then I tried to patent it, and then that's really what pulled me into hemp. Was all of a sudden I'm working with entrepreneurs in America in the hemp wick industry, like different brands and stuff, and working on this dispenser. And then when I moved to Poland and continuing to work on the idea, that just turned into, there's hemp in Poland, there's beeswax in Poland, let's make hemp wick in Poland, let's export it to the States. um, and then you find clients for the hemp wick, they want other cannabis related stuff, and one thing leads to another, and we're like a hemp product development company.
That's cool. And you're an inventor. You consider yourself an inventor, right?
I didn't until a legit inventor told me I was one.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder if you can give a couple of like points of advice for nurturing creativity.
Oh, good question. I heard from a person doing a book that they were interviewing millionaires, and they asked them what two qualities they want their children to have, and it was creativity and critical thinking were the two traits that millionaires want their kids to have in order to like keep the family business going. Creativity. Um, my 3-year-old watches Sesame Street, and in Sesame Street now they say, I wonder what if, let's try. And like that's all you need, you know? Like you just like I was saying, a lot of inventions are like compound inventions. You know what I mean? Like there's not a lot of like pure inventions, like there are some, you know what I mean? But like a cell phone case is a great example. Like growing up, we did you have a Walkman case? Probably not.
I did not. I had the Walkman Sport that was like a yellow thing that had it was kind of already protected. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Right. But then so then, like a purse is, it's a container. You know what I mean? At its bare bones
basic. Yeah.
thing, and a cell phone case is like an open-faced purse for your phone to protect it. You know what I mean? And it's like, all right, well, if you start taking one thing and another thing, so I'll tell you about the hemp dispenser, right? And this will get into how to, creativity is a muscle. You know what I mean? Like problem solving is a muscle. It's like I don't have a talent for it. You know what I mean? The Air Force kind of gave me a boost of this muscle when they put me through like a Six Sigma lean process analysis course. But for me, I'm like, I want my dad to use Hempwick. I want my dad to use Hempwick, and he's not going to use it because it's inconvenient. How do I make it more convenient? And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about when I was an altar boy. So I was an altar boy at one point in my life at a Catholic school. Nothing weird happened. Get your head out of the gutter, everybody. And as I was an altar boy, we had like this brass tube thing with like a little slider, and inside the tube was this super thick paraffin wick. And we would light it and we'd walk around the church lighting all the candles. And as the wick would start to burn down, you'd slide it up a little bit more. And
Mhm.
so the hemp wick dispenser was what if that was compressed down to something the size of a lighter, and instead of a tube, the wick was coiled, and instead of a slider, it was a thumb wheel to make the wick go up and down. You know what I mean? And so like I took inspirations from my past for a solution for my present. And like I am an extremely lazy person. I don't actually want to do anything. I want things to be easier for me. You know what I mean? And so the technical term for my kind of laziness is industrious. I'm an industrious person. I think of things to make things more efficient so that I can get more done in the least amount of time possible with the least amount of effort.
Okay.
That's inventing. That's creativity to me. I can't paint my way out of a I can't paint, I can't draw, I can't sculpt, you know.
But you're conceptual and you can sort of move those concepts around and get them to work in new ways.
Yeah, if I could project into the physical world what my mind's eye sees, it would probably be pretty cool.
Yeah.
People would be entertained by what is going on in here.
Hmm.
And I do often spend a lot of time open-eyed staring at the ceiling. My wife hates it. Like she'll come into the living room and I'll just be spaced out staring at the ceiling, just kind of,
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
just doodling in my mind's eye. Or my favorite inventive moment was like I'm having like a shower moment, like shower thoughts. There's just pure creativity, but I'm vacuuming. The same thing happens.
Mhm.
I'm vacuuming and lightning strikes, and I didn't even turn off the vacuum. I just set it down, ran to the kitchen, started doodling. My girlfriend, girlfriend at the time comes in, Mike, what are you doing? I'm like, no, do not talk to me right now. You do not, please, shh, and like you shouldn't, it's rude to shush a person, but it's like, I'm just fiendishly drawing. And that idea, once put into the physical world, saved me a lot of time and money. But I just couldn't be bothered to just ruin that flow of
Yeah.
thought to even turn off the vacuum cleaner. It's totally normal.
So that I'm going back to that the part in your story where you wanted your dad to use the hemp wick, right? So
Yeah.
you want him to use hemp. So now if we sort of zoom out and instead of it being your dad, it's like consumers of the world. How do we
Yeah.
get them to want hemp in their lives? How do you do that? Do you reach them through a marketing campaign? Do you reach it through, is it not selling the idea of hemp, but maybe selling hemp as an ingredient? Or like, how do you reach the people? Because I think it's this jump that we're looking for into sustainability has to be partially government led, partially,
Mm.
industry led, but it's going to be really brought home by consumer behavior.
The only way that that's going to happen is if Google and Facebook stop blocking industrial hemp related things. Like the two largest mouthpieces about sustainability are Google and Facebook. And yet, I cannot tell you how many times my clearly not THC producing dog collar had been blocked on their marketplace, and how many times I've had whole pages removed for no reason, or marketing whatever campaign accounts just deleted. You can't um I don't know, whatever, beg for their forgiveness to restore it, whatever that word is.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like you want all this sustainable stuff, and yet uh you've made this unmarketable.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like the most sustainable, I mean, Canaf and Cecil, and there's a bunch of bast fibers in general, nettle and whatever, they're all sustainable, super sustainable. Um, but this one, hemp, you can't market it,
Yeah. Very frustrating. Do you think
you know?
as fibers go, bass fibers, like is hemp a superior fiber, or like is it just another fiber in that list?
It's just another fiber in the list.
Okay.
I think
Um,
so.
but do those
I mean, there's definitely objective data, like if anybody wants to send me, if anybody wants to send me some Cecil from Africa, I have some Kanaf from Israel, I will do the tests. I'll do the strength analysis at the university and I will post the results and we will let the results speak for themselves. But I know they're all damn close, like
okay.
within fractions of a percentage.
So those other bast fibers, they don't also offer like medicinal properties or grain properties. So there's like this cannabis plant just offers more. Like a lot of plants do one or two things well. Some plants like corn do a bunch of different things, but
Right.
it seems like cannabis does almost anything you want it to if you ask it the right way, right?
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of it, like nettle fabric is awesome. It feels great. But
Stinging
like
nettle fabric, it
stinging
kind of
nettle,
makes me
stinging
itchy thinking
nettle,
of it.
stinging nettle. There's a whole Facebook group on it. Check it out. There's a whole Facebook group just devoted to processing stinging nettle into yarns, and it makes a beautiful fabric.
Wow.
And obviously linen, right? So flax is a great seed. I don't remember if it's flax or hemp. One's really good with omega-6 and less with omega-3, and the other one's opposite. But like apparently flaxseed is actually the best blend
No
from
kidding.
what I understand, objectively speaking.
Interesting.
Uh, but I mean, hemp heart oil though is like the best tasting oil on the planet. Not hemp seed oil, hemp heart oil, hemp nut oil.
Right.
Richard
Right.
Rose would.
I at one point early in my, sort of hemp exploration, I got some hemp oil and my family we love to eat tomato salad in, fresh tomatoes from the garden, August, chop them
Yeah,
up, onions,
yeah,
garlic, basil, olive oil. So good. You dip the bread in there, some salt. It's delicious.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're on
And
the same
so
page.
understand that I don't have much of a sense of smell. And by that I mean I have no sense of smell. And so
Mm.
I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna like switch. I'm gonna instead of olive oil, I'm gonna use hemp oil. And immediately, like without even tasting it, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "How did you know?" Like it doesn't smell like olive oil. And then when they tasted it, so the lesson there is just use olive oil for tomato salad
Or hemp nut oil.
or hemp nut oil. Right, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I'll have to try
It's
some of that.
mellow, it's golden, it's delicious, it's nutty.
Okay, good. Well, thank you for sharing that,
Yeah,
Michael.
sir.
This has been a really fun conversation. We're kind of all over the place. Um, and I think part of that is that it's a late in the day conversation for me. It's even later in the evening for you because what, you're like 7 hours in the future.
Ish. It is about 10 p.m.
Okay. And here it's almost 4. So yeah, 6 hours. Cool. Well, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, if I may.
Yeah, please go for it.
Um, if I were supreme leader of the planet and I could just wave a magic wand and make everyone do as I believe, um, I would be absolutely running around trying to create as many tree-free cellulose processing facilities as possible for packaging, for paper, for our many uses that we need cellulose for. And I would absolutely be also creating facilities for long fiber and short fiber for hemp because I'm a very big believer that if we want to meet our sustainability goals in any shape, way, or form, all politics aside, for 2030, 40, 50, that we need this plant. We need this plant and we need investors and banks to take it seriously because it is a game changer. You know what I mean? We're playing catch up based on bad politics. Like imagine where we would be had hemp never been demonized, where we would be with textiles, where we would be with paper, where we would be with all of these things if it never happened. And it's like, how about we don't let that take 100 years to catch up? How about we actually put on our big boy pants and big lady pants, whatever, people pants, our big people pants, and we get shit done. You know what I mean? We put the right investments in place. We develop the right technology to decorticate and scotch and process and just do things. And we all come together to just grow this pie. You know what I mean? And we make the change that needs to happen. We can do it in 5-10 years. It's not rocket science. Literally, it's not rocket science.
It's like
What the fuck are we
we
waiting
need to
for?
have a shared long-term goal, right? And
Absolutely.
we sort of have that, we have the shared long-term whatever, I don't even know what you call that, but it's not a plan yet. There's not a goal. Like we're not all thinking the same way, but we have to. So do you have plans to become supreme leader?
No,
No,
no, not at
no,
all. I
that's
want
good.
I want nothing to do with politics. You asked me something earlier about there's some farm protests or something. I have no idea. I'm not interested in sports, not interested in politics, not interested. I don't even like talking about climate change because I can't prove it. But there are like thousands of things that surround the circle of climate change that are undeniable.
Mhm.
Microplastics, dead zones in the Gulf of Mexico, and all the other deltas are dying. And there's all this stuff that we shouldn't just be pretending aren't real.
Right.
So
Right.
come
And
on,
then fighting
let's
over
get it done.
stupid politics, right? It's like we have, as people go, we have like so much in common, right? Like everybody, we're just people. We have this same place in common,
Yeah,
but and the differences are minute, but they become huge. And yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, Michael, I'm trying. I can't read my writing now. How to pronounce your name? Let's try it again. Michael Klepacz. Klepacz.
It's really
Klepacz.
good.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
good.
I'm working on it. I've learned a lot today. I've learned a lot about Poland today. This has been good. Um, my kids are involved in a thing called Odyssey of the Mind, and occasionally they make it all the way to the World Championships. And I went with them a couple of years ago, and there were teams from all over. And it was at Michigan State in like their basketball arena.
Okay.
And there was just like hundreds of people yelling Polska, Polska. It was amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And my kids came in second place in the world that year.
That's amazing.
Yeah, my kids are amazing. Yeah. Well, Michael, it is great to talk to you. I'm glad that we've connected. This has been a fun conversation, and I look forward to more of these.
Yeah, I would love to, if there's ever the opportunity to do a part two, let's do it.
All right. If people want to reach you, is it best to email or how would you like
The
to how can people find you?
people you can, the best way to get in touch with me is by WhatsApp.
WhatsApp.
And I'm not
Okay.
afraid. I'm not afraid to give out my phone number. I encourage anyone to bother me, please, especially if it's about sustainability or hemp, or not. Bother me anyways. But my WhatsApp number is my Polish number, which is +48 662 331 212. Or you can go to naturalmaterials.eu.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
I will put a link to that website, and I'll put your WhatsApp number on there too, so people can
Go
go
ahead.
there and click it and they can just get in touch with you. Cool. Well, Michael, thanks again. It's great to talk to you. And is there a traditional like way to sign off of a podcast in Polish?
I have no idea. There's a bunch of different ways to say goodbye. Like you can say do widzenia or na razie or do zobaczenia.
Do
Cześć.
zobaczenia. I'll go with that one.
Yeah,
Do
there we go.
zobaczenia.
Do zobaczenia.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video extra bonus thing. My name is Eric Hurlock. I'm the senior digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, part of the Steinman Communications family, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world, all of those things. You can reach me by email. Send it to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Or again, just leave some comments here on the YouTube page. And until next time, I will see you in the newspaper. Thanks for listening.
industrial hemp.